Meet the most underrated watch from the Omega collection, the Constellation Globemaster. And this is the annual calendar version with a green dial, because green is the new orange. Most of you will know today's constellation that is based on the Constellation Manhattan from 1982. So with an integrated bracelet and with the 4 claws pressing on either the crystal or on the newer models, the bezel. But the Constellation is much older. It's 70 years old this year, so 1952. And when it was introduced, it had these pie pen dials. They were all chronometer certified and they always came with an automatic movement. The Constellation was the flagship of the Omega brand. Often the Constellation was bought by people who just want to have one good watch. And it also applies to my family, for example, where my great-grandfather had a Constellation and my grandfather, and then my mother, my father, and of course myself as well. Besides Speedmasters, I do have a small Constellation collection from the first models from the 50s to today's models. But that's a story for a different time. So I was very happy to see in 2015 the new Constellation collection, and Omega called it the Globemaster. The Globemaster name was used before because when Omega introduced the Constellation collection in the early 50s, for some reason they could not export it to the US, and it had to do with the name Constellation. So on those first Constellations that were imported into the US, you will see the name Globemaster instead of Constellation. So Omega revived this name for the 2015 Globemaster collection. And that watch had the pie pen dial as a nod to those very first Constellations. And it was the first Omega watch that had the master chronometer certification done by Metas. The watch was released in 39mm in steel, gold and platinum. One of the design cues of the Globemaster is the fluted bezel. When the Globemaster was introduced in 2015, people start comparing it to the Rolex Day-Date and Rolex Datejust. But if you look carefully at the case shape and at the profile of the case, you will see that it's a completely different design. Furthermore, the bezel on the steel version is made of tungsten carbide, so it's very scratch resistant. The bezel on the gold models, the platinum models and the gold steel models are in precious metal, so they will scratch a little bit quicker. In 2016, Omega added new models to the Globemaster collection, and this time it's the Globemaster annual calendar. It's the watch that we have here. Instead of 39mm in diameter, it increased to 41mm. And, as the name suggests, it has an annual calendar. So it will show you every month correctly, except February. It doesn't know how many days February has. On the contrary to a perpetual calendar. A perpetual calendar will have every month correct. So on March 1st, with an annual calendar, you have to advance the calendar to the first day of that month. The functions of this watch are all operated by the crown. So setting the time, setting the date and setting the month. Setting the date and the month is done in the same crown position. Turning the crown clockwise will advance the date, turning it counterclockwise will advance the month. Some people ask, why is there a month written on the dial? That has to do, for example, for setting the date, because you need to know which month it is when you set the date. Inside we'll find Omega's in-house caliber 8922. It's part of the 8900 family that was used in the first Globemaster, and the Globemaster annual calendar, it's 8922. It has a power reserve of 55 hours. It uses 2 barrels in series, and of course it is master chronometer certified, having a precision of 0 to 5 seconds per day, so no slow running watch, and of course it's anti-magnetic up to 15,000 Gauss. So what do I think about this watch? Well, as I said before, I think this watch plays very nicely into that one good watch theme. It's a 41mm watch, and although that might sound large, on the wrist it wears very nicely, as you will see. If it's too large for you, you can opt for the 39mm version that will not have an annual calendar, but it's the same model, pie pen dial, fluted bezel and so on, 100 meter water resistance. This annual calendar, I think, adds quite a nice complication. The pipe pen dial with its 12 facets, on each facet it has the month written. Some are more or less against it. I also had a bit of an issue with it when the watch was introduced in 2016. But when I have the watch on the wrist, it actually looks quite nice. It looks kind of chic even, how it's written. And it's not so much in your face. I mean, you look at this watch now on your screen, so the watch is blown up basically. But when you wear it on your wrist, it's quite far away from you. And it doesn't bother me at all, actually. The thing I needed to get used to is the extra fourth hand on this watch that indicates the month. So it's stuck in one position for an entire month. So this watch isn't new. It has been here since 2016. The reason why I requested this watch for review is the beautiful green sunburst dial. This watch comes on a green strap, but I have to warn you, the green strap is darker than the dial. On the one hand, that doesn't completely match. On the other hand, it makes the dial pop even more. The cool thing about the dial is that the printing is really nicely done in white, so it really stands out. There's the Constellation star at 6 o'clock just above the date, and there's the applied Omega logo and writing. The backside of the watch has this sapphire crystal with in the center the medallion, with showing the observatory with the 8 stars, the famous 8 constellation stars, and it shows you the caliber 8922 movement, where you can clearly see the 2 barrels and the coaxial escapement and silicon balance wheel. The price of this watch is 8,900 euros, and while that's a lot of money, I think you will get a lot of bang for the buck in the case of this Globemaster annual calendar, because there are not many annual calendars out there in the direct competition of Omega in this price range. Before doing this review, I've been wearing this watch for a few weeks on my wrist, and although it's a bit larger than my own 39mm Globemaster and a little bit thicker, it really wears comfortably on the wrist. You need to try it on at your local Omega dealer or boutique, and I'll bet you will not be disappointed. I wear my own Globemaster a lot, and I think it's a great modern watch with a nod to the pipe pens of the 50s. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching.